Welcome to BS Draftcast, where we are Brandon and Steven, and we're back at you with another video, another live stream. We are in week 5 of the NFL. Got a couple college games that I'm going to give picks out for. We're not going to go into depth on them, but uh, definitely give the picks out for them for today. As always, I got my main man, Steven, on the other line. How you doing today, Steven?
They're good, man. Just fighting for cell phone service. You know how it is.
Yeah, out in the hills of Virginia, where you're at, it's brutal. Man, what a great weekend we had. Pretty much everything we said on the live needed to happen happened, and that's how people won. And if people remember correctly, I did say that Pittsburgh is going to end up losing this game to Indy, and that's exactly what happened. But Justin Fields did show out, so can't be too mad at him. But it just seems like we're putting out recipes for success, and they're working. So I don't know. And maybe we do know what we're talking about a little bit, but hey, is what it is. On to the next one. We had to get one out of our system. Baltimore steamrolled the Buffalo Bills, like I said was going to happen. I know you're pretty excited about that game. Derrick Henry opening play for the Ravens to come out and just nuke on what was it, 86 yards,
Yeah,
something
it was
like
like
that.
86, 87 yards. Yeah, he was gone.
He was rolling. That's for damn sure. Yeah, let's dive right into it. Thursday night gave out a free pick, or actually I didn't post it on the website, but I did send it out in the text to everyone that gets my picks. Took Atlanta plus the points. Atlanta looked way better than the score shows. I mean, if you look at the stat line, you would think that Atlanta won by 50 points, not by overtime win. But that's how football go. It was a game of inches, and Atlanta ended up pulling it off, and another bet that cashed. So big on our part. Um, yeah, we got an early game tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. It's in London, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep, yep.
All right, so we got the Jets and the Vikings, which one week the Jets look good, and then last week looks like the worst team in the NFL. I'm not too sure what the issue is. I mean, I've watched some of the games. I haven't like been keened in on the Jets, but it just I don't understand what's happening. Uh, Why why couldn't I mean, I know the weather was shit. Don't get me wrong, like it was terrible. And but bro, I mean maybe you can enlighten me on what's going on with this Jets team cuz I honestly I'm dumbfounded of what the hell's going on with this team.
Honestly, I am too. I got nothing for you on that, man. They just don't seem just in sync with one another. Like everybody just seems off. I mean, they don't have Mosley, which is not having Mosley, not having Morgan Moses is tough, but just cohesively, I mean, they just don't look good. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Jets. Um, just just ineptitude, like on paper, you look at that offense especially, and you're like, man, they're gonna make some noise. Aaron Rodgers gets back to pre-injury form and all that, and like he's had some game, like he's had some plays and some games where you're like, oh, that's vintage A Rod, and then you look at you look at the box score of that game last week, and it's like you can't. I know it's in London, so it muddies the field a little bit just because of the travel and everything. So if Minnesota's a little out of whack just from that, or there's different variables. But if you go in there playing against Minnesota and you play like you did last week, the Jets are probably going to get stomped.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume Sauce is going to shadow uh, Jay Jettas, but they typically don't have Sauce shadow people. So I mean, that's going to be an interesting matchup on the offensive side of things. And if the Vikings can continue to roll like they've been, it's going to be a long day for the Jets. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and defensively, like that's been the Jets over the last few years. I mean, for a while now, for a few years now, it's been like defense has been their calling card. And man, like people have been running on them at will. Like I mean, they just been having trouble just all across the board as a team. So I don't know what the hell's going on with that team.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't. I just don't see this being another piss poor showing, like it was last week. the line only being 2.5 is kind of crazy to me for the Vikings. Seems kind of like they're basically Vegas is saying that the London aspect of it kind of is like the denominator for both teams. Neither team's gonna have a big showing. Blah blah blah. But honestly, I feel like something's gonna happen. The Jets might squeak this game out and cover the spread with and potentially win this game. Um, it's a bold prediction. It is a 9:30 game, and me personally, I just want to bet on it. Put a small little bet on it to just to something interesting, keep me interested in watching it. Um, but I know everyone's waiting for that mess up game from Sam Darnold, and he just hasn't had it. But yeah, I, I think that the Vikings offense is too much for the Jets, especially with the way the Jets defense has been playing. But I just for something in me just I feel like the Jets might get out to that early lead. They may get a stop on defense. They score on their first possession, score again, and they're up 14-0 within seconds. And I think it becomes a close game, but I think that they could squeak this out, man. I really do. I just something in me just says it. And I don't know what it is, but I'm
No,
hoping.
I am with you on that. I am with you on that. I could see Aaron Rodgers pulling a vintage, Packers moment with the Vikings many times as he played them when he was with Green Bay. So I mean, I could see Aaron Rodgers coming out with a different attitude. Or I mean, maybe last week against Denver, maybe that's something that just kind of just lights a fire under their ass finally that they need. Maybe it's
Right.
kind of like, dude, we can't. We're too talented for this. Like we have too much on this team to be losing to Denver. It
Right.
with the pitiful box score that they had. And just to lose that game. So. I think this could be one of them games where the Jets get right.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do. And looking at numbers, I mean, Aaron Rodgers' numbers compared to Sam Darnold's, they aren't far off. Like Aaron Rodgers, 849 yards, 5 touchdowns and interceptions. Other than the touchdown ratio, Sam Darnold only has 932, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So, I mean, it's not like Aaron Rodgers is turning the ball over. It's just they're not doing anything with it. The
Right,
line
exactly.
just is very baity. I mean, the the Minnesota Vikings have nuked on teams. And granted, last week's score 31-29 looks a lot closer than it actually was. They literally dismantled the Packers. And I don't know what happened in the second half, but they completely fell on their face. But I mean, they beat the Texans 34-7. They beat the Giants 28-6. They beat the 49ers 23-17. And last week, the Packers they were winning like 28 to nothing at one point. So it's the line being 2.5 is kind of mind blowing to me, and I'm just gonna go on a whim, and I'm something to bet, something to look at, something to look forward to. I'm gonna take the Jets, and I might buy it up to half point, so take them at 3. Just buy the extra half point. Take the Jets at 3, and I think this is a close game, a lot closer than anyone expects it to be. Moving on to the 1 o'clock games, we have a very very bad game that it's unfortunate, but we got the Patriots and the Dolphins, which man, bro, I honestly thought that Snoop was gonna do something last week, and Snoop Huntley had like 37 yards passing in like third quarter. That shit was bad. Like I can't believe that Mike McDaniel's this offensive guru can't figure anything out. I honestly can't. I don't want to believe it. I guess, and it's mind blowing to me that all the speed you have, you can't create any offensive production. And then on the flip side of things, and you were just saying it, the Patriots, their offensive line is atrocious. Like, I don't. I have nothing for this game. I don't even want to look at this game. I don't even want to think about this game. This game will not even be on my TV. do you do you have anything for this game at all?
Uh, no, I'm kind of the same boat as you, man. I mean, I don't understand how you don't at least devise a game plan, that kind of works to Huntley's strengths and kind of takes away some of his weaknesses. Huntley's not the best at throwing the ball, but at the same time, intermediate routes and stuff, try and get the ball in Tyreek and Jalen Waddle's hands because they're a big play waiting to happen. So like you got to try and get these guys just get the ball in their hands, and try and let them make a play, man. And as for the Patriots, dude, I mean, that team's just sad. I feel bad for any quarterback that has to play beyond that offensive line. They have 2 or 3 starters out this week now. So, I mean, they went into the season with arguably like the worst line on paper without a doubt, and now you're losing the starters for the worst line in the league. So, I feel bad for anybody that has to play behind that offensive line, man. I mean, I put my punter in before I put Drake May in behind that line, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. You're setting him up for failure. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, but I will not be watching that game either.
I. It's one of them things, man, where like you just wonder how isn't like I said, how don't you have a plan or come up with something to for them to succeed? Like I mean, anything. I just don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I these two teams are bad. They have the Patriots' offense is horrible. I don't care who the quarterback is. It's terrible. And the Dolphins, you lose Tua, and they're like the worst team in the league, and it doesn't make sense. Like I love Tua. Don't get me wrong, I love Tua, but like, bro, like you can't plug someone in that offense that can get him the ball. It just I don't get it.
I don't either. Same with A Chain. A Chain's another home run hitter they have on that team. I mean, that game there. So who do you who do you think wins this game? And we can jump off this one. Who do you think wins?
Bro, if it's a showing like it was Tennessee versus Dolphins last week, um, I don't know who's gonna score first. Like it's gonna boil down to who turns the ball over in plus territory and they get a field goal out of it because neither offense can move the ball.
Right.
um, bro, it is so hard to say a team with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and A Chain, just 3 names, is even in question of losing against the Patriots. Like it, it's it is so hard to even put that into words. I mean, Antonio Gibson's getting the start for New England. They're benching Rashad Stevenson. Um, the Dolphins can't stop a Colt. I'm taking the Patriots. That's who I think. That's who I think's gonna win the game.
Yeah, I'm looking at like the Patriots injury report and Caden Wallace out, David Andrews out, Sione Taki doubtful, Val Duggar their starting safety questionable, Kendrick Bourne their starting receiver questionable. I mean, it just goes down the line. Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, freaking Vidarian Lowe, Marte Mapu. Their whole team is questionable or out. Like it's crazy. It's like they're bringing up like they gotta have their practice squad out there on the field. It's insane. If the Dolphins lose this game, I mean that's just the saddest. I mean that's just sad. I think just because of injuries alone, I think the Dolphins win. I'm just gonna go with the Dolphins.
On the actually, we're not gonna jump off this game right away. I want to go to a tweet that Tyreek Hill put out and hear your thoughts on it. His tweet was saying, "Woke up to trade news." Do you think that's inclination that Tyreek Hill may be getting traded and maybe going somewhere, and they're just trying to iron out the fine details? Do you think he could be going back to the Chiefs with their injury prone setup? And obviously, we'll just roll Devontae Adams right into it. Devontae Adams, as we know, requested a trade as well. Um, But do you see Tyreek Hill on the move, and maybe that Dolphins? I mean, Tyreek Hill isn't getting younger. Maybe you trade off a piece like Tyreek Hill and try and get some draft compensation. Like I don't think he's worth a first round pick by any means, but you could probably get a second, 2 seconds, and a third. I mean, Tyreek Hill in the right game plan is unstoppable, and it has shown when Tua is the quarterback. Apparently, Tua is the only one that can throw the ball to him, or Patrick Mahomes. But do you see the Dolphins moving on from Tyreek Hill and maybe trying to get some more pieces and get some draft capital for this upcoming draft and kind of preparing for next year?
Man, I don't know because it's such a gray area. I don't know exactly what Tyreek was referring to with that tweet. I didn't know if there was a possibility that the Dolphins might be trying to trade for like a quarterback or something like
Right.
that. Like I wasn't sure, but I mean it would make
It's like an
sense.
open book on it.
Yeah, and I mean I think if it's like a win now team like the Chiefs, they don't give a shit about a first round pick. So yeah, here, take the first. So I think in sort of most cases, I don't think Tyreek. I wouldn't give up a top 10 pick for him. But
No,
like if you're like one
absolutely
of them
not.
teams that's a piece or two away, personally, if he goes to the Chiefs, I'm gonna lose my shit. But that's beside the point. Um, but the Dolphins, the fall off has been unbelievable. I mean, just injuries alone, like Jalen Phillips. I mean, the guy retired in college because of injuries, came back and came to the league and became a great pass rusher. But now it's all coming back again. Bradley Chubb, he's another one. I mean, just injuries, injuries, injuries have killed that defense. And now with Tua, with these concussions that he's gotten over the last few years, it's just. I mean, it's sad, man. I mean, it sucks to see the Dolphins fall off like that because I want to see Miami do something. I like Mike McDaniels. I know Mike McDaniels. He loves Tyreek Hill, so I think he'd be a little apprehensive about them trading. Which obviously, in the end, it's not his call. It's the GM and the owner's call. But man, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, what to think of this Dolphins team. I don't. Like, where do you go from here?
My biggest thing is right. Like my biggest thing is how is the fall off this bad with and don't get me wrong, like I know the quarterback's like the most important piece that you have on a team. He makes your offense do offensive things and makes your offense great. But like and I said it before, I like Tua. I don't have an issue with Tua. I don't have nothing against Tua. But how is it that you can't find anyone that can get these dudes the ball? I don't understand. You can't just find one person to get these guys the ball. Like Joe Flacco came in last week for the Colts and they didn't miss a beat. And granted, Joe Flacco has played that Steelers defense numerous of times, blah blah blah. But how is it that you cannot find a suffice backup that can win? Like, no, I'm not talking like have your team undefeated. Like, just win some games and keep you in the hunt, keep you in the race. And
Man, mm.
you, man, I don't get it. I can't believe that Tua is that great that you can't replace him. If that
Dude,
makes sense.
I think a lot of it is that like Tua is he's a I don't want to say he's a Brock Purdy, but like he's one of them guys where it's
I mean,
timing
throws.
routes. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, I mean that ball is there on that break. That ball is right where it needs to be. And Skylar Thompson, even back to college days, he's not that guy. Tyler Huntley, trust me, is definitely not that guy. They're not timing route quarterbacks that depend on the receiver getting in and out of his breaks. They extend plays, and most of the time it turns into a sloppy mess, and they complete a pass. But with Tua, I mean that offense it clicks because he knows where Tyreek's going to be, and he can get the ball there. So I think that's their biggest problem. They haven't adapted to the fact that they don't have. I mean, even your backup quarterback, right? Like he should fit your system and the system that you run, but Skylar Thompson does not fit that system. I mean, he's not a guy that drops back and throws the dime where it needs to be. He's not that guy. So
I
I think
it,
that's why.
I could
That's the
agree
only
with
thing that
that.
makes sense to me. That's the only thing that
And
makes sense to me.
right. And also, what another thing that I am gonna piggyback off of that is I think if you put a good coach and unfortunately I like Mike McDaniels, but I can't say that he's a good coach. You put a great coach on that team, they're finding ways to win games. You put an Andy Reid in that system, they're finding ways to win games even without their starting quarterback. I mean, I think that's what it boils down to is the coaching. Mike McDaniels, because it's shown he will not change his scheme,
Right.
and clearly shows it's an issue.
No, that's yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to adapt the scheme. You lose your starting quarterback, there goes the engine of your offense. But you still got to find ways to get the Tyreek Hills and the Devon A. Chains and the frickin' Jalen Waddles. Like you got to find a way to get those guys the ball because they're game breakers anytime they touch the ball.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so we did the whole Tyreek Hill coverage. Maybe getting traded. Maybe they're trading for someone. Devontae Adams. We're just gonna stay right with it. Devontae Adams clearly is not happy in Las Vegas. Clearly wants out. I know the front runners right now are the Jets just because of A-Rod, and I supposedly that's where he said he wants to go. Supposedly, there has been talks of the Ravens and the Steelers also in talks for a receiver, and trying to talk and getting Devontae. Do you foresee? I think Devontae gets traded. I do. Where do you think a realistic piece for him landing is? Because for me, and before you chime in on it, for me, the Jets make sense, but also the Jets don't make sense. Because if you think about it, yes, Devontae Adams is he's a stud. I almost slipped up. He's a stud. But you have Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Alan Lazard, who's been balling for the Jets. So why are you going to bring in a fourth receiver? And granted, yeah, you bring in a big name receiver like Devontae Adams, or maybe it's a Mike Williams Devontae Adams swap. But in which that would make sense. But why would you just bring him in if it's just draft picks?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Do you, being your favorite team, but you're realistic, just like I am, do you foresee the Ravens having anything to offer for Devontae?
I think there's a chance. I mean, they were talking about Mark Andrews, but I'm like, dude, the Raiders have Mayer and they have Bowers, and I personally, I personally don't want to get rid of Mark. I mean, he's had a slow start to the season, but I think he'll get right. We just need to, get him involved. We haven't been throwing the ball as much because Derrick Henry's been running out of his mind, so him and Lamar have been doing RPOs, yada yada yada. But we do need I'm not saying that Zay Flowers isn't the number one receiver because he is, but it would be nice to have a veteran guy like Devontae Adams to kind of take that pressure off of Zay that can, you know, open up the offense more. He's a bigger body guy that can get up and get it. So I think he would fit well. It's just there's a lot of mouths to feed in the Ravens offense. So would he be happy there? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what we give up. Do we give up? I don't personally want to give up a first round pick for a receiver
Nah,
that's
I agree.
32, 33 years old. He's still playing at a high level. I'm not knocking him, but I wouldn't want to give a first round pick for that. I wouldn't if we traded a Rashad Bateman to them and whatever picks, fine. But would he fit in the offense? Yeah, but like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, man. I mean, we have a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and Lamar, he spreads the ball a lot. I mean, a
Yes.
lot. Everybody touches the damn ball. If you're open, he's going to throw the ball to you. It doesn't matter if he's dumping it off or if it's the third string tight end. It doesn't matter. He's just going to get the ball to whoever. So I don't know if Devontae would be happy with Baltimore. Another one people were saying is the Chiefs, and I'm like, why in the hell would the Raiders trade in their division with the Chiefs?
To
Like,
someone that beats the shit out of them every year.
year after year, like why would they trade with the Chiefs? But another team, a dark horse team that's interested, and we talked about it. Me and you talked about it together recently. Was the Bills? The Bills are kind of
Yes.
monitoring the situation supposedly. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But like you said, the dynamic of that Bills offense, man, does he come in and throw a wrench in that because they've been playing well?
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's a big thing that teams have to look at. And the same with Pittsburgh. Like, would I love Devontae in Pittsburgh? Absolutely. Him and George Pickens. Whew. It'd be hard to hard to beat. And it's funny, I actually have Roto World up on my other screen here, and Amari Cooper is another topic of potential trading and teams wanting to trade for him because he only has a cap hit of 1.2 million this year, which that's pretty appetizing for teams that need a good receiver and he could fit right in the offense. So obviously, this is the first I'm hearing that the Browns could potentially trade him. I know that he's been on the topic before, but I mean, if anyone's going to go to the Chiefs and Amari Cooper's on the board, that might be the target right there. If you ask me, but I
And
mean,
depending on what you're getting, I mean, I just
yeah, that's
as
what
a
it boils down to.
as a team, like I don't see what do you have to gain for making the Chiefs better? Like in your own division, like I never understood that. Like teams will trade just anybody, to like the best team in the league, and it's like, why are you? You know what I mean? Like you're
For a
not
bag of
helping your
chips.
case. Yeah, like you're not helping your case at all. I mean, they're in the AFC, like yeah, I said division, but yeah, they're in the same, they're in the AFC, same conference. Like what do you have to gain from trading these guys to the frickin' Chiefs?
Now,
Like
if they're going to
long term.
oversell, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. If they're going to give me a lot for him, like a lot to make it where it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. One second. I just got a Facebook message about the podcast.
Oh,
No, just a general question.
no.
We like I say we like I'm part of the Steelers organization.
I do the same thing with the Ravens. I say we. Yeah.
Like the Steelers, I worry as much as I love George Pickens. If you pull some targets away from him, does it turn into an issue? Because George Pickens has been eaten. Like there's no doubt he's been eating, but like only time will tell, and
Yeah.
it's gonna boil down to if people are willing to give up what they're looking for, obviously, and then it's gonna boil down to because I don't think he has a no trade clause where he can choose where he wants to go. So going to the Chiefs doesn't make much sense. I mean, it does for the Chiefs' standpoint if they can get him for nothing. I mean, it makes 100% sense. But as far as trade him in your division, I mean, for me, I think it's stupid. But who am I to say? You know what I mean? But on to the next game. Trade deadline's approaching. It might get spicy or it might be completely dead water and nothing happens and everyone's excited for nothing. It could it could be very easily one of them things.
Oh yeah. Which
Bears and
happens more
Panthers.
often than not.
Yeah, you aren't wrong there. You are not wrong there.
This one
Bears
here is
and
a barn burner.
Bears and Panthers. Um, I still think Caleb Williams sucks.
Hard to argue.
It's I mean, he was 17 for 23 last game, 157 yards, one touchdown. DeAndre Swift figured out that he can actually run the ball somehow. DeAndre Swift also was their leading receiver. So I just man, this game it's just the Bears suck. Like I don't
For no
know any
reason.
yeah, exactly, for no reason. Like, I don't know any and I'm not trying to be an asshole about it, but the Bears suck. And honestly, somehow the Bengals, other than like Jamar Chase breaking that huge touchdown after he broke 9 tackles, I mean the Bengals didn't look great. They looked better. They didn't look great, but they looked better. And they won by 10. They won by 10. Andy Dalton didn't have the greatest game. I mean, it wasn't terrible. 220, 2 touchdowns, interception. Chuba Hubbard went off on the ground. Deontay Johnson's been balling. But man, the Bears are favored by 4 points. I think that the Bears can get right slowly. Like maybe last weekend was like the turning point they needed. But I mean, whenever your star receivers, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Duzier, DJ Moore 3 catches, 22 yards. Keenan Allen 19 yards, 3 catches. Roma Duzier 1 catch for 10 yards. When when your receivers are putting those numbers out, it's hard to win games. I mean, it's just what it is. And eventually the defense is going to be winded and not be able to hold these teams to very little points. And I'm not saying Carolina's the team that's going to beat the Bears again, like beat the Bears this week. But I don't think the Bears cover the spread. I don't think they cover the 4 points. I think the Panthers, as terrible as that team is, I think they keep it close, potentially, I think. But it sounds like it sounds like we are just playing a recording as our live feed because we talk about the Bears and how ass they are all the time. But it's the media building Caleb Williams up like he's already Peyton Manning or Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. If the Bears can run the ball like they did last week, they can win this game. That's where I'm going to leave it. What's your thoughts on this game?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I do. You gotta. Last week was the DeAndre Swift show. You know what I mean? Which is funny because I was just dogging him last week, saying like he hasn't been able to get going and stuff like that, and then he explodes. So you're welcome. No, I'm kidding. But man, this could be another big week for DeAndre Swift. Shaq Thompson, Achilles injury, he's out. I believe he tore his Achilles, so he's done. Josie Jewell, their other linebacker, also hurt. So this could be another big week for DeAndre Swift to where they can pound the ball with him and stop him, spell him with Roschon Johnson and let Roschon get some touches, and just try and keep Caleb Williams from having to throw the damn ball. I guess. I mean, it's. I don't know what's going on with the Bears. I don't know what's going on with Caleb Williams. I mean, he has a lot of talent and stuff and things, but he's just not. I think the game's a little too fast for him right now, to be honest. I know he tries to downplay it and stuff, but he just kind of looks a little lost in the sauce. Matt Eberflus is an overrated coach. I said it.
Yeah, facts.
But Andy Dalton, man, shout out to Andy Dalton, dude. He's really been able to kind of get all the talent. What's that?
He's put a spark in that offense.
He has. He's getting Xavier Legette. He's starting to get rolling a little bit. He had some drops last week, which is unfortunate. Which is kind of his knock coming out of college. Is his hands. Can he catch the damn ball? But he had a solid game. Like I said, he had a few drops, but he's getting Deontay involved. He's trying to get Jonathan Mingo involved. Trying to get Sanders involved. So the way he's spreading the ball around and trying to get this offense, like they're starting to get an identity, and their offensive line currently ranks as the number 2 pass blocking line in the league, which is shocking.
Yes,
but
very.
That money they put towards that line is starting to pay off. You can see the first week or two they were really shaky, but it seems like now they're starting to settle down and kind of lock in. Robert Hunt is questionable. Their starting guard who's been playing at a really high level. He is questionable, but I think the Carolina Panthers, I think if you were able to lock down DeAndre Swift, like I said, it's going to be tough with their linebackers being out. I think Carolina wins this game, but you got to be able to contain DeAndre Swift and make Caleb Williams beat you with his arm.
No, I agree. I think that's the key to success playing the Bears is making Caleb Williams beat you 100%. I'm not going to touch the spread on this, but the over under of points is 40.5. I'd take the over. I can see both these teams scoring 20 points at least. Bears defense gets a touchdown on defense, puts them in plus territory for points. I can see this game going over 40.5. And honestly, I could see the Vikings game, Jets game going over 40.5. That's a pretty low number for that game. And same with the spread. I just wanted to backtrack there. We'll make sure that I go over the picks for the weekend. 100%. At the end of the podcast, I know we missed it yesterday. I had an 8-month-old on my lap that was going ham, and it just kind of by the wayside. Colts Jaguars. Colts coming off a big win against Pittsburgh. Even with, and like I said, Justin Fields. Justin Fields played well last week, and we'll get to that when we get to the Steeler game. But he played well. Some terrible officiating again. James Harrison actually put a tweet out and said that call is going to change the game, change the outcome of this game. And well, I mean, let's be honest, Steelers defense couldn't stop a cold, and maybe part of it was game planning for Anthony Richardson, and he went out early, and Flacco came in and lit him up. But in the same sense, hats off to the Colts, man. They played well. They stuck to their guns, and unfortunately, Jonathan Taylor's out for this game. Jaguars, on the other hand, 0-4, and they had a real shot at beating the Texans last week. I mean, Texans scored with like 20-something seconds left in the game, I think. It was like 18 seconds left in the game. And it was all C.J. Stroud just creating and making a play. So they had a real shot at beating the Texans. Obviously, divisional game. They always play each other tough. But we're talking about a team that got absolutely throttled by the Bills and comes out and plays against the Texans and looks very good. Jaguars are favored by 3 points in this game. The offense looked good last week for the Jaguars. I don't know what changed, but Trevor Lawrence looked good. I mean, he's looked like everything that we've been expecting and wanting and trying to lobby for. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't have an insane stat line of like 400 yards. I mean, he only had 170 yards passing. Tank Bigsby was rolling. Brian Thomas Jr. rolling like normal. But C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, they were just too much to handle. I know correct me if I'm wrong. AR is a game time decision, I believe.
Yeah, he is, man. I think he's going to be like I think they'll probably use him as like an emergency quarterback in case something happens to Joe, but I don't think he's not playing.
I mean, with a hip pointer, I think that's what they called it, for a quarterback that relies on his mobility. I mean, that's pretty significant, and I'd be kind of concerned about starting him. I mean, the Jaguars don't get pressure on the quarterback, so maybe he could stand in the pocket all day and throw the ball. But Colts, Jags. I don't think the Colts lose anything not having by Joe Flacco starting. Man, I don't like this game. I'm not gonna touch it. I'm not a fan of it. Yeah, I'm not rolling with this game at all. But I could see the Jaguars getting their first win at home against the Colts. I could see them getting their first win with this game. Any thoughts on this game? Anything you want to piggyback off of with the Jaguars' performance last week?
Well, no, I'm with you on what you were saying with Trevor Lawrence and the way the offense played last week. It was just C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins just taking over the game. It was no more, no less than that. Got a little easier matchup this week against the Colts. The Colts are pretty banged up. Jacksonville's somewhat banged up in their own right too, but Jonathan Taylor, you mentioned, he's out. Kenny Moore, their starting corner, he's out. Kwity Paye, starting defensive end, he's out. Ryan Kelly has a neck injury. He may not play as their starting center. And their Pro Bowl right tackle, Braden Smith, is questionable as well. So the Colts are pretty banged up. I
Hmm.
I mean, not having Jonathan Taylor is going to put a lot on Joe to really, because their backups are Trey Sermon and I can't remember their other back. But
Who are
up to
the
this point, like Trey Sermon coming out of Ohio State, like I thought he was going to be really good. Hasn't shown anything. He's bounced around teams, been kind of a journeyman. So he's going to put a lot on Joe, which they have the weapons. You know, you can see that Joe was trying to get A.D. Mitchell a little more involved in the offense.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think if Jacksonville's gonna, I think if they're gonna get a victory this season, I think it'll be against this banged up Colts team. So I'm gonna go with, I think Jacksonville wins this game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. There's not much else to say on it. Next game is a game that I'm actually excited to see before I go into work on Sunday, and it's the Bills and the Texans.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great game. Should be.
Yes, should be. On the podcast, I said, and I called it, I said the Baltimore Ravens are going to absolutely manhandle the Buffalo Bills. I know you had your doubts, but something in me knew and felt that the Buffalo Bills were going to get throttled by the Ravens. That's what happened. The Bills last week were completely dismantled from top to bottom, dismantled by the Ravens. And it brought them back to life. I think Josh Allen was on cloud nine. It was just I I'm just gonna come out and say it. It pains me to say it in a way, but the Baltimore Ravens have found their stride, and the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. I don't care what their record says. I don't care that the Chiefs are 4-0. The Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the NFL now that they found their stride. And if it continues this way, they may not lose another game the rest of the season. With that being said, because we'll be talking about the Baltimore Ravens next game, Bills and Texans. Texans are like regressing, and I don't understand what's happening. I feel like this game could turn into a full blown shootout of who has the ball last to score last. Before I don't want to dive too deep into it, I want you to speak on it. What's your thoughts of this Bills and Texans game?
This Bills and Texas game is going to be. I think it's got the makings of being a really good game. Unfortunately, two more teams that are pretty banged up with injuries right now. Khalil Shakir, starting receiver for the Bills, out. Ed Oliver, hamstring injury, starting defensive tackle, out. Taylor Rapp, starting safety, out. Taron Johnson, starting corner, he's questionable. And then Texans, they still don't have Joe Mixon, man, which has kind of
It's
hampered them a
shown,
little bit.
yeah, it is
Yeah,
shown.
it is definitely, it's hampered them a little bit. And Damian Pierce just unable to recapture his rookie season form. I think it's the offense that he's in. I don't think it really fits his running style. So they've been really leaning on CJ to try and make the plays, but they don't have Derek Barnett, they don't have Jerry Hughes, two edge rushers, rotational guys, but still parts of the game plan. So both teams are pretty banged up. I think this is going to be just kind of a shootout between the two quarterbacks. I think you get James Cook involved if you're Buffalo, but man, this game, it could be a really good game, like a high scoring game, or it could be one of those games where neither team is really able to get anything going and it comes down to, a field goal or, a touchdown.
Right.
So this is going to be a wild game.
Another game that everything in me wants to take the Texans just because I'm a Texan. I like the Texans. But after that showing last week with Buffalo, I don't think Buffalo goes backwards. I think that Buffalo is going to be a problem for the Texans. I think they can squeak this out, and they're the underdog in this game. After which Texans have looked shaky, and up until last week, the Buffalo Bills have looked dominant. So it's kind of surprising to see the spread. I mean, it's only 1 point, but I just the way the Texans defense has been playing which hasn't been the greatest ball. I think that the Bills get back to what they were doing, and I think that like you said, it could be a shootout, it could be a very abysmal field goal touchdown, last second. I mean, I think it's going to be a last second, regardless of if it's 30 points or if it's 10 points. But it's I just feel that the Bills get back. Josh Allen uses them legs. James Cook is a big focal point in the offense, and I think they I think they pull this out. Honestly, I really do. I really think that the Bills pull this out. They get back in the winning ways, and because I mean, honestly, let's be completely honest. That Bills Ravens game, as a organization for the Bills, it was embarrassing what happened to them. Uh, and Derrick Henry did what Derrick Henry does, and that's run all over the Bills. It's just I don't I don't know if they decide that they're not going to game plan for him or what. But even in Tennessee, Derrick Henry just annihilated the Bills all the time. So I'm not betting this game. I mean, I might. I don't like the spread over under 47.5. So they're projecting high scoring game. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to touch this game. I'm not. Moving on to your beloved Ravens and Bengals. You put the keys to success out there last week with what the Ravens need to do in order to beat the Bills, and I said that the Bills were going to get smashed by the Ravens, and everything came to fruition. Josh Allen did not run all over the place, and the defense was just flying around. And I just want to give a shout out to Kyle Van Noy. That dude is playing better football than I've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at the Ravens and you look at that defense with Trenton Simpson, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Matabika, I mean, it just goes on and on. The unsung hero in that Ravens defense is Kyle Van Noy. That dude is balling. And, bro, whew, that offensive run game, Derrick Henry, 199 yards. And we mentioned it earlier, opening touchdown, 86 yards, right out the gate. I, I just said it. The Ravens are the best team in football right now, and they're scary. They're very scary, especially whenever you can run the ball like they are, which that's what they need to do. And when it's 2nd and 4 and third and 2, and you have the threat of Lamar's legs, the threat of Derrick Henry's legs, and they run that RPO and he pulls the ball and he can throw it. Now you have the corners backing off and trying to stop the run. I mean, it opens the playbook for anything. And that's the most terrifying part with this Ravens team right now. Um, Ravens are favored by 2.5. Over under is 48.5, so they're expecting a lot of points. The defense played tremendous against the Bills, but now they're going up against a division rival. Always tight games, always just hard nosed football. But they're going against T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Do you think that the defense has enough or has shown enough to be able to stop these two guys and pull out a victory in this game?
I think they have, and I'm gonna piggyback on what you said about Kyle Van Noy. Yeah, he's been the he's been the presence that we need as far as pass rushing goes. Always really stepped up, but Kyle Van Noy has been instrumental in our success so far this season. I mean, it's like he's aging backwards. You know, like he's he came in the league as as an off-ball linebacker, ended up switched to a pass rusher, which was he was in New England because Belichick's a genius, so he ended up switching to pass rusher, and he's just gotten better and better and better. So Al Van Noy is just he's been instrumental in our success. But as far as our defense cohesively, we're starting to click. We're starting to kind of we're starting to get like Matabike starting to get there. Michael Pierce, big boy, he's starting to get there. So I think we're going to cause a lot of problems, a lot of issues for quarterbacks. It's what we need. Marlon Humphrey's looking better. He's looking rock solid. Nate Wiggins is looking really good. Kyle Hamilton's still doing his thing. I think that we match up against the Bengals really well. We talked leading into it last week with the Bengals against the Panthers. They're starting to get Chase Brown involved. Chase Brown had a really good game. He's a name that a lot of people they don't really think of when they think of like an RB1. But Chase Brown has been rock solid, and he's starting to get more touches than that. He's starting to get touches coming out of the backfield in the receiving category. So the Bengals do have their fair share of weapons, but I think that we match up really well against Cincinnati. And then defensively, I mean, Chuba Hubbard had he had a big game against that defense. So I think we get Derrick Henry rolling early. I think we can cause a lot of problems with the Bengals.
I agree with you 100%. And early this week, I've been really on, uh, really on the Bengals +3, being that it's a divisional game, and these games are always very close. But man, the Bengals
That's always a
defense
good
hasn't
thing.
looked great. The Bengals defense does not look great at all. And I just feel that this Ravens team is decimating people. And they found their stride. I mean, I know we're beating a dead horse here, but they're a toe away from potentially beating the Bengals because they were going for 2. So they're a toe away from that. They're the Raiders was the biggest debacle. Whatever. I mean, we're talking about a team that's potentially 4-0, and they're a legit 4-0 team. But I want to stay on the Bengals, dude. I do, but the Ravens offense, I just feel is too much for these Bengals. I'm gonna have to look at some numbers and crunch some numbers with the way Lamar plays the Bengals and the way Joe Burrow plays against this Ravens defense, and I'll build a bet off of that. But for right now, Baltimore -2.5 seems like disrespect to Baltimore. It's for a team in the Bengals that have looked very lackluster, and I mean, let's see, the Bengals 3 losses, 1 against the Patriots, week 1, it's whatever. They damn near beat the Chiefs, which we all know how that went. The Commanders, they realistically, the score looks a lot closer. The Commanders beat the hell out of the Bengals, and
Yeah.
they only beat the Panthers by 10 points last week. Now they're playing a juggernaut team in the Ravens, and I've been riding the Ravens money train. Anyone that's been following since week 1, the Ravens have been making money, for us, hand over fist, and maybe I stay on that train with a spread of -2.5. I feel like the Ravens just are too much. I will say, shout out to $1 Million Marco. He's with All In podcast. He does a lot of sports picks. Funny ass dude. Him and his cousin, which is kind of funny because me and Steven are cousins. But $1 Million Marco, he's on the Bengals at 3. And I was earlier this week, and then I watch All In podcasts all the time, and he's still on the Bengals at +3. So shout out to him. But I think I'm gonna have to go the opposite side. I just, man, I can't. I don't think I can get off the money train of the Ravens. I really don't. Commanders and Browns. The Browns cost us last week. They had a touchdown towards the end of the game. They got called back for a bogus holding call.
You can't depend on them for nothing.
I honestly thought that was the game that I didn't have to worry about until I looked at the ticker, and I was like, "What is happening?" What are the Browns doing against this completely practice squad Raiders team? And it hurts to even think that the Browns suck this bad. I mean, just 2 years ago, we were talking about the AFC North being the toughest division in the league, and the Browns and the Bengals are ass. And honestly, Jaden Daniels has been absolutely insane. And I'm doing it. I'm doing it again this week. I'm doing it again this week. I might not give this out in the text messages, but I'm I'm saying it on the podcast. I'm betting the Browns again. I do not believe that they suck this bad. I don't. I'm taking the Browns plus 3.5 against the team that hasn't punted the ball in 3 games. And I'm taking the Browns. I don't know why, but I feel that the Browns get an upset. I'm taking the Browns plus 3.5, and I'm running with it. If they don't, if it's another piss poor performance, the Browns are banned. The Browns are banned from life. I said last week they were banned, but I'm giving them one more shot against the team that hasn't punted the ball in 3 weeks. It's the craziest thing. This might be the dumbest donation I ever made to Vegas, but I'm taking it and I don't care. But on the other side of things, this Washington Commanders team is no joke. Bro, Dan Quinn got the hat backwards out there styling. Bro, this Jaden Daniels is going crazy. The defense is playing good, even though they said the defense is horrible. But, I mean, look at the offensive numbers that they're putting up. The Cardinals, I thought, was going to be a good game. I thought you were going to see 2 athletic quarterbacks just running around for their life and just rifling the ball all over the place. And that wasn't the case at all. I mean, do you think this Commanders team is a team we're talking? I mean, they're leading the NFC East right now at 3-1. Dallas right on their heels. And in there with Philly. Phillies look abysmal. Is this Commanders team legit? Or people just can't figure out Jaden Daniels yet?
I think they're legit, man. Honestly, I think that Jaden Daniels is playing good ball right now, and he's starting to really build a really good rapport with Scary Terry. And man, Jaden Daniels not afraid to let the ball fly. And not having Eckler last week, I was kind of like, man, they're not going to have him. They'll have B-Rob and that, but I was like, man, like we'll see how they do, and they balled out. So I think the Commanders are legit. I think that anybody who's still a Washington fan out there, I think they got a lot to look forward to with him as their starting quarterback. But in this game here, dude, the first drive for Cleveland, I watched a little bit of that game last week. Trust me, I didn't watch much, but I watched the first drive of it and a couple drives. Deshaun Watson looked really good, like right out from the jump. I was like, oh shit, okay. I was like, all right, good, Deshaun. Man, after that, they just went back to same old. I like the idea of an upset, but man, I think Cleveland loses this game. They just don't have anything on offense. I mean, they have weapons on offense. They can't frickin' use them. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson, man. I don't. I mean, he's kind of a lost cause. It's been like this for a couple of years now. It is what it is. You have Joe Flacco come in last year, and he takes them to the playoffs, and he's balling. And then you get your starting quarterback back this year and a relatively healthy team, and aside from obviously Nick Chubb, which is unfortunate, but he is practicing.
Yeah.
He will not be playing probably for the next few weeks. I don't think he'll play. But He is practicing, but man, this team just stinks. I mean, offensively especially, their defense is kind of underperformed as far as I thought they were going to play, just because of the level of talent they have in their defense. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Cleveland. I don't think that I don't think they pull it out against Washington. I don't.
I don't know what it is, man. It's something in my gut. I don't know why, but
Cleveland blows.
they do. They really do. I do want to throw this insane stat out there. So I just did it while you were talking about this game. Jaden Daniels has 12 incompletions. 12 over their 3-game win streak. He's only thrown 12 incompletions. And we're not talking he's only throwing the ball 10 times a game. Against the Cardinals, he threw the ball 30 times, 4 incompletions. Against the Bengals, he threw the ball 23 times, 2 incompletions. Against the Giants, he threw the ball 29 times and had 6 incompletions. Bro, those numbers are nuts. And it helped last week that Brian Robinson Jr. went off. 21 carries, 101 yards.
Yep.
Obviously. And obviously Jaden Daniels had to run for a touchdown. Jeremy Nichols had 2 touchdowns. Like, they had a lot of touchdowns on the ground. But man, this Washington team, if you're a Commanders fan, you got something to watch and something to be excited for. That's all I'm going to say. Another barn burner. Raiders versus Broncos. The Broncos were in a ugly game against the Jets that they squeaked out, which nobody seen that coming. The Raiders squeaked out a game against the Browns, which that's the opposite side of what I took. And I don't know how the Raiders keep finding ways to win. I really don't.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't know.
They keep finding ways to win. Max Crosby's questionable this game. Devontae's out. Devon Diablo, he was limited in practice. Dylan Parham was limited. Devon Diablo limited. I'm not touching this game. The Raiders have screwed me. Well, I can't even say the Raiders. Yeah, I guess it would be the Raiders. I took the Ravens to beat the hell out of the Raiders earlier. They lost. I took the Browns to beat the Raiders. They lost. The Raiders are dogs again against this terrible Denver team. I mean, Bo Nix had like -7 yards. I forget what I texted you, but he had like -7 yards in the second quarter of passing or something. It was something horrible.
Yeah. And they won.
And they won. And they won. In a 10-9 game. 10-9. And I get it. The weather was terrible, blah, 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 whatever. Do the Raiders cover again? 3 against this team? I mean, the Raiders have won the last 8 matchups against Denver. If Max Crosby plays and he's healthy, I think it can cause problems for Denver. And right now, I think Minshew's veterancy leans a little bit better for Bo Nix. I'm not touching this game. I'm trying to talk myself into betting it, but I can't. I'm not betting it. Who do I think will win this game? Honestly, I am going to bet. I'm going to take the over 35.5. I think there's some points scored in this game. That's a pretty low line. I'm going to take 35.5 on that Raiders Broncos game. And I don't have much to say on it. There's not much to talk on it. There's not much to talk about either of these teams other than the Raiders keep finding ways to win, and it's impressive, honestly. For them to find ways to win with all these players wanting traded, wanting out, people hurt, They're benching their starting corner. I mean, they keep finding ways to win, man. Anything that you want to say on this game?
I don't really have much either, man. I'm with you. Like everything you said verbatim. Like I'm with you. This game is just, I don't know. Nothing to really look forward to in this game.
Watch this be the game of the week, dude.
Watch it. Yeah. Well, I don't know. That Falcons game is gonna be tough to beat.
Oh man, Kurt Thuggins 500 passing. Whoo!
Balling. No, Bo Nix hasn't looked great. I mean, obviously from the stat that you you mentioned a minute ago. But yeah, the Raiders, like you said with Minshew, he's finding ways to win, even without Devontae Adams being in there. Really not a great running game. That's kind of Denver's issue too. They can't really get anything going on the ground either. So I've got nothing for this game, to be honest with you.
I just want to say, Bo Nix finished the game with 60 yards passing.
I'm amazed that he got the 60 after having like -7 at halftime. So good for him.
Oh my goodness. What are you going to do? Cardinals or 49ers? I like this game. I like this game a lot. I am betting this game. I am taking the Cardinals +7. I still don't believe in the 49ers. They aren't that great. The defense has not been top of the line. I know some people can get this game at 7.5, which is even better. That's where it opened at. If you can get it 7.5, hammer it. You can get it at 7, hammer it as well. But the 49ers, I mean, they looked like an offensive domination, and defensive last week again, but they were playing New England. And let's be honest here, it's New England. They lost to Minnesota handily. They lost to the Rams on a final second field goal, and they beat the hell out of the Jets, which the Jets looked terrible that game. I just think that Kyler Murray's going to cause issues. I think Fred Warner's dealing with some kind of injury. I think he's questionable. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything about that.
Okay. Let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, so he had an ankle injury, and he's listed as questionable. I just don't think that the 49ers are that dominant as we've seen in the past couple years. And I think that the Cardinals can keep this a close game. And I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. matches up well with this secondary. And I think this could be another big game for him. Jawan Jennings has been absolutely balling outside of his mind. And, I mean, if they can keep him involved and keep him rolling, the offense will look great. But in the same sense, the Cardinals have showed offensive explosions. So last week was very lackluster and terrible, but I think this is a bounce back week, and I like the Cardinals, man. I really do. I don't think that the 49ers are as dominant as everyone thinks they are and how they've been, I should say. Any thoughts or concerns with this Cardinals 49ers team or game?
The Cardinals are volatile, man. You know, like I don't know what it is with Kyler Murray, but it's like he has all the talent in the world, all the ability to get out of the pocket, the ability to scramble. He has a very good arm. You know, it's just he's just so goddamn inconsistent. I mean, it's always something. Just like with the Cardinals, it's always like a letdown for some reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it, but it's always just like they just find a way to just beat themselves, and their defense it's not that great, like that's kind of an issue that obviously
plays a hand in Kyler's failures too. I mean, I'm not going to just sit here and blame it on Kyler, but I mean they put weapons around him. It's just really just maximizing his potential, man. But he's so frustrating just because it seems like he's almost just like disinterested or just doesn't really give a shit, So
Right, right.
and then with San Francisco, they've obviously got a barrage of injuries. Not having Christian McCaffrey obviously sucks. Is Devo playing
Jordan
this week?
Mason. Debo is playing. I was gonna say Jordan Mason has been playing really well though.
Dude, that's all I was gonna say, man. Like these running backs. I mean, this is like back to Mike Shanahan days. Like anybody they can just plug in a running back and he's successful. I mean, god dang. But man, it's hard to say with San Francisco just because having the pieces out, they're gonna be missing. But it all falls on Kyler. What Kyler Murray are you getting? Are you getting the Kyler Murray that's out there scrambling and making big plays and stuff and getting the ball in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hands and spreading the ball out? Or are you getting the Kyler Murray that just, goes 10 for 22, with freaking 13 rushing yards? It's hard to say, but I think I'm going to go with San Francisco in this one.
Okay. You think they cover that touchdown spread? Think they cover the 7 points? Or do you think the Cardinals keep it under 7?
I don't think they cover it.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm at. I think San Francisco wins this game, but I don't think that they cover. I don't think they win by more than a touchdown. I think they're going to rely on Jake Moody a lot. Seattle and Giants. What a game between Seattle and Detroit for starters. What
that game was awesome.
Game. Kenneth Murray getting right. Or Kenneth Walker. My apologies. Kenneth Walker getting right. The Giants suck, man. They made us money covering the spread on the Giants-Cowboys game, and I'm not betting this game because I don't like it, but I do think Daniel Jones, his arm just looks weak. It looks bad. They're without Malik Neighbors. They're without Devin Singletary this coming game. Seattle might beat them by 20, if I'm being honest. I mean, I don't have much to say. Geno Smith has played well. The offense looks good with Seattle. I don't see it, man. Seattle, if I had a bet, gun to my head, water gun to my head, Seattle -7 is what I would take. I just feel that the Giants are bad, man. They just are, unfortunately. They're without two of their offensive weapons, and that's just what it is. Doesn't help Daniel Jones by any stretch of the means. I can say that. Anything with this game.
No, I'm with you. The Seahawks should wipe the floor with the Giants, man. Not having Malik Neighbors, I mean, that's been their biggest contributor. He's aside from Jaden Daniels. I mean, you can make an argument that he's, could be offensive rookie of the year, or rookie of the year, I should say. So you not having him, I mean, there goes a good chunk of their offense. So I don't have much to say on it either. Seahawks are getting right. Geno's playing well. He's playing his game, which is good. It's what Seattle needs to win the games. Defense looked a lot better last week.
Yeah.
And obviously feed DK the ball, man. Yeah, DK's a tank. I don't think the Giants are gonna have anything for Seattle.
Moving on, Packers and Rams. Packers -3. Give me the Packers. I like the Packers. I think Jordan Love is a really good quarterback, and that offense is a different breed when he is when conducting the offense. I like the Packers. The Rams, the injury bugs got them. And let's just real quick. the injuries this year are just stacking to the moon, and it's unfortunate. It really is. Um, the Rams are one of the worst with it, considering they're both receivers are out. I mean, it's sad to see. I hate seeing injuries. I don't care what team it is because I want the best players on the field at like every single game, just so we have games. But I think the Packers, the defense is going to get right this week after that showing last week. Well, first half defense looked terrible. Second half defense looked good, and the offense is going to roll. Any key injuries in that game at all that you've seen or know of?
Yeah, I know the Packers got some injuries. I don't want to freaking misquote here. I'm trying to get this dang thing to load. Um, okay, so the Packers, they're obviously without Christian Watson.
Right.
Christian Watson's not going to play. But I'm trying to get it to load. I want to say it's Jaden Reed, another top receiver of theirs, and I just can't get it to load. If you wouldn't mind pulling it up, like I said, I don't want to misquote.
Romeo Dobbs.
Romeo Dobbs, that's it. Romeo Dobbs is not playing. So, but they still have Dontavian Wicks. You know, they still have Bo Melton, and obviously they still have Jaden Reed. So there's plenty of options on that offense. Like we talked about, last season. You know, leading into last season, like the Packers have a very young, talented team. They have a lot of depth. So I think if another week of Jordan Love getting reps, getting snaps, he starts getting back to himself. I think the Packers go over in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. And that's the bet I'm going to take is the Packers -3 in that primetime game, Pittsburgh versus Dallas. Pittsburgh is favored. It is at home. We've seen what the Ravens did to Dallas. Can Pittsburgh do the same? I want you to speak on this game. The only thing I am going to say is that we are very depleted at running back. Najee is the only healthy running back we have. We have two running backs that, I mean, they're quote unquote no namers. Obviously, they're in the NFL, so they are half good. But we got Shampklin, and I think we brought someone up off the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. But Jalen Warren's out, Cordell Patterson's out. So I know Micah Parsons is out, which is huge. Hate to see it, but it's huge for Pittsburgh. Yeah. What's your thoughts of this game?
I hate to jump back real quick.
No, go ahead.
But Romeo Dobbs, this is reported by Bill Huber, and he said that Romeo Dobbs skipped practice Thursday and Friday over frustration with his role in the offense. Which is strange because according to this, he's had the most targets through the last two games, and he's led all the Packers receivers in snaps. So it's really surprising. You know, these young Packers receivers, they all seemed very unselfish, you know, and Romeo Dobbs, who's played really well, is very good, you know, especially at high ball and making tough catches. Romeo Dobbs is a really good young and up and coming receiver, so that's crazy. But I guess that's apparently a thing. I guess he did what all the NFL players do now. He scrubbed the Packers from his Instagram, you know. So apparently there's smoke, there's fire, I guess. But I just wanted to throw that in there. So that's what messed up.
Good find. Good find.
But back to it, yeah. With Pittsburgh, like you said, the backfield, obviously Jalen Warren, he's kind of struggled with injuries this year, which is unfortunate. I mean, going against the Dallas defense that, you know, Derrick Henry, obviously, he dominated. So him and Najee are somewhat similar. My thing with Najee that I've been watching with him that's been kind of frustrating is he's been so hesitant. Like he's been hesitating to hit the hole. You've seen Cordero Patterson go in there and relief plays, and he would bust through. And that's what Najee needs to do. He's being so indecisive. He needs to hit the hole and start to get downfield because if he gets stood up like Derrick Henry, if he gets slowed down, they're going to wrap him up and he's just going to go down, you know. So I would like to see Najee run with a little more, um, a little less indecisiveness, you know, and then really just hit the hole going at full speed and start building up that speed and make some of them plays because he's a menace to tackle. It's just getting him past the line of scrimmage. But Justin Fields, like you said earlier, he played really well. He played really well last week. So if Dallas, another team, they don't have a running game. That's Dak's biggest problem this year, and that's the Cowboys' biggest problem. Their offensive possessions have stalled because they're not surprising anyone because they don't have anybody to run the damn ball.
Yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott he's
Please.
washed. He's been washed for the past 2-3 years. You know, no offense to Zeke, but I mean, you know, it happens. But Rico Dowdle, everybody thought that Rico Dowdle was going to be like the number one back, and me and you talked about it going into the season. It's like I don't think he's a
not that
number one
guy.
back.
Yeah, he's not that guy.
No. That's why when you had Tony Pollard and you relieve him with Rico, like Rico would come in and he's the power back and he would kind of change the pace. But when you lose a guy like Tony Pollard, who's a home run hitter, yeah, he may hit the home run and not get to the end zone, but like he's a big play just waiting to happen. But now they don't have that in the backfield. So all the pressure's on Dak. So
Yep.
going against a Pittsburgh defense that's constantly got its ears pinned back and they don't have to worry about the run, I think Dak Prescott's gonna be running for his life, dude. I really do. I think the Steelers win this game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm right there with you. I think that the Steelers win this game as well. It's a get right game. Get back to it. You lost to the Colts. You're playing a Dallas team, and I think that's where we're at. Monday Night Football: Saints versus Chiefs. Here we go again. Patrick Mahomes in a primetime game. The Chargers covered for us last week. We took the Chargers plus 7.5. They lost by a 7. That half point saved our ass. Chiefs are favored by 5.5 in Arrowhead. They've looked terrible. They're without Rashid Rice. Hopefully he can get better. Obviously they'll get Pacheco back eventually. All the trade rumors have been spiraling, going crazy. I'm taking the Saints plus 5.5, and I honestly think the Saints win this game outright. I don't think the Chiefs look great. Patrick Mahomes doesn't look great. And without your leading receiver, you're going to lean on Kelsey, who hasn't looked great himself. I'm not. Every week we talk about these referees. It is what it is. I'm not going to go into it again this year or this week. But the Saints have been brought back down to earth the past 2 weeks. With the Falcons winning on that last second field goal, the Eagles getting that big run from Saquon. They haven't been being that offensive juggernaut team like we were accustomed to the first 2 weeks. But I think the Saints have a real shot being able to run the ball like they can with Alvin Kamara and just getting him the ball in his hands. Chris Olave has been really coming into his own. I think we have a real shot with the Saints, plus 5.5. The Chiefs, it's unfortunate, obviously, with brain fart. With Rashid Rice going down, it's because he's been playing amazing. But I will say, on the defensive side of the ball for the Saints, Kool-Aid McKinstry, which our boy has played phenomenal this year. He has played excellent. And I love to see it. Bama product corner playing great football, which seems to be the case. Wish we could say the same for quarterbacks, but fortunately. For me, I think this is where you see the Saints get back in the win column, and I see this is where you see the Chiefs get their first loss. Any thoughts on this game?
I agree with you, man. I think the Saints end up going over in this game. I think they end up beating the Chiefs, hand them their first loss of the season. Yeah, with the injuries that the Chiefs are dealing with, I mean, and with Kelsey not playing like he has in the past. Yeah, I think the Saints have a legitimate shot at going over in this game, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. But yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Saints, man. I don't really have much on this one either. Yeah, a healthy Alvin Kamara. Obviously, the offense is gonna run through him. Um, yeah. As long as the officials just keep their hands out of their pocket and keep them off the flag, then I think the Saints can go over on the Chiefs, man.
All right. So that's this week's games. Thursday night game will be 49ers Seahawks. Obviously, it all depends on the spread. I did this last week. I took the Falcons. They ended up winning. Or no, who did I take? Yeah, Falcons, Buccaneers. I did it last week. Took the Falcons. 49ers Seahawks. All depends on how these games tearing out this weekend. But I'm going to roll with the Seahawks once again. Early pick for Thursday. So, this week, we're going to go over these bets. We're going to go over 40.5 Jets Vikings. We're going to go Cleveland +3 against the Commanders. We're going to go Cardinals +7 against the 49ers. We're going to go Packers -3 against the Rams. And we're going to go Saints +5.5. So that's 5 games, which is a lot. I usually like to keep it like 4 or less, but I kind of like these numbers this week. And if you want to sprinkle in, if you don't like one of them, you want to substitute, I would take Raiders Broncos over 35.5. Weather's going to be clear in Colorado. I think that line's really low, and I think these teams can score more than 35 points. So technically 6 games if you want to bet them. Over 40.5 Jets Vikings. Cleveland Browns +3. Raiders, Broncos over 35.5. Arizona Cardinals +7. Green Bay Packers -3, and Saints over the Chiefs +5.5. Any closing thoughts, Steven?
No, I think I'm good. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in, taking the time out of their day to listen to our picks, listen to our babbling about different games going on this week, and hope you guys have a good weekend.
Appreciate everyone. We will have another video out, live stream Saturday or Sunday. We're trying to keep it on a schedule. Saturday's been working out pretty good. I don't think I'm scheduled 7 days next week, so we should be good. I am on afternoon shift again, unfortunately, but we should be able to get the video out like we have been, 10 a.m. on Saturday or Sunday, whichever way it may fall. But that is all I got. If that's all you got, thank you, everyone. Let's hope we have an injury-free weekend. No more injuries in the NFL. That'd be great. And hopefully your favorite team gets a win this weekend, unless you're playing the Ravens or the Steelers. We are BS Draftcast, Brandon and Steven, because all we do is BS about